Welcome to episode 104 of Destination Linux. This is a podcast of opinions made up of four of the smartest minds ever to discuss their passion for Linux on Destination Linux. I'm Michael, and with me today are my three podcasting peeps. Zeb, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Michael. Hope you're well too.
Absolutely. I'm doing stupendous. And Ryan, how are you?
Cheerio.
Okay, sure. And our good friend Noah, how are you doing?
Oh, real good there, you betcha.
Okay.
They did accents. I figured I had to do an accent from North Dakota.
You do know cheerio is goodbye, don't you?
Oh, no. Goodbye.
So, yeah, we just started the podcast and Ryan just decided to end it. All right. So, Noah, what have you been up to this week?
So on December 31st, a new version of Mix came out. It was, and I had it here, 2.1.6, I believe. I wrote it down. So
2.6.1.
2.6.1, that's what I said. I just making sure that you're paying attention.
Exactly.
So December 31st, 2.1.6, like I said, came out. And we actually purchased brand new hardware to run it on because as kind of a side gig, I do DJing for weddings and events and stuff like that. And there were some pretty cool features that had come out with it, and they've come out with some new, I don't want to say themes, but like skins. And so it presents the information to you a little bit differently. And we actually purchased a brand new computer. So I've spent the last week, you would not believe how much work it is to go retrieve and export all of our music libraries and all of our playlists and all of our audio carts or whatever they call it, and get all of those put into the new machine. So I've been spending some time playing with Mix, and it's been absolutely fantastic. And I'm really thankful to the developers of that project that have made a product that stamps out the proprietary alternative, and they give it away for free.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's pretty cool. It's got a lot of cool things that I tried to play with and have no idea what they do.
Put it on auto DJ. Push that button and just watch it roll.
I can totally do that.
Mhm.
It's kind of like me on a keyboard where they have the demo mode, and then you just kind of push some buttons to make it. Yeah, that would be me.
Exactly.
So, Zeb, what's new with you?
I'd like to start off by saying I do not suffer from hepatitis. Okay, so it's got nothing to do with anything. Hepatitis. It's not. Just because I tried 3 distros this week. It's neither. So I tried Linux Mint, Unix OS, and Tux Linux. Now I can talk about them now, or I can talk about them later in the show. But basically, next.
Wow,
None of them are anything. I mean, Linux Mint is Linux Mint.
That's where I'm surprised. Like, you don't like that?
I don't like Linux Mint. No, I would recommend it for someone new to Linux to come in and get used to it. But it's just there. It's Mint. It's just really okay. Next.
But that's so unfair. It's such a great, I mean, it's as stable as an Ubuntu or anything else. I mean, it's based on it. So
the fact that I would give it to a new user is testament that it is a brilliant distribution.
It was just boring for you. For you, you're just like, well, okay, all right.
They have a nice new design, though.
This new Unity thing, and it just completely blew up. I mean, the dark one can tell you what a bad time I had it. I then tried to reinstall it again, and it was fine. Except I can't get rid of the controls on the left-hand side of the screen. I can't get rid of the fact that it puts 3 bars along the top of every single monitor. It's just not for me. Sorry.
Interesting.
Yeah, well,
that's what I've been up to this week.
Unity's actually quite good, and it's sad. They should make it off Plasma. Anyway, so Ryan, what have you been doing this week?
So I set up a GoFundMe for Zeb to bring him to America, right? We're going to bring him to America. We're going to bring him to Southeast Linux Fest, which is probably going to be sometime in June. And, we want to get him a flight and, of course, a hotel room. So that is out there, and people are already donating to it. And believe me, we're going to use all of our patron funds and things that we can to add on top of that, but we want to get him here. I do want to explain and just be very transparent of why this is going to cost us, a lot of money, obviously, for an international flight to get Zeb there. But now the expenses have increased because Zeb sent me a document called Zeb's Travel Requirements. So I just want to go through this so people kind of understand. A first-class flight he wants with 2 seats booked and unlimited alcohol. So I thought that was a little unfair, but a variety pack of biscuits, not cookies, in his private dressing room. And he put, not that American crap tea you all pass off as tea, but proper English tea, fresh brewed every hour. So that's going to cost a little bit of money there. Right. For entertainment, he wants 007, Austin Powers, and Mr. Bean movies in Laserdisc format, which I thought was a little weird. and then 2 large batons with the British flag on them. So know that your money is going towards all of that.
There's some listener out there that shut the podcast off and they were like, to heck with those guys, wasting money on stuff like that. But I've done enough jokes that the's somebody out there that just took that all seriously.
It's quite possible, but I mean, we did forget one important thing. That was the bowl of M&Ms, where the all it's just brown M&Ms. You got to pick out every other color.
And Marmite.
Yeah. It's Marmite flavored M&Ms. That's the point.
Marmite.
And what's the bail conditions for unruly behaviour and using bad language? Because I'm obviously going to say something that I'm not meant to say because it's in America, and I'm going to be talking about going on an elevator or the sidewalk.
We're going to help you out.
Yeah, we'll just correct you every time you speak and say something.
I'll come straight out of the airport and get done for jaywalking.
Just don't blow any of your own trumpets. When you get up,
exactly.
The plane.
Because in the UK, the first thing you do is you come out of the airport and you dodge traffic to get to the car park. Well, I understand if you do that in America, you get nicked.
Yeah, they don't want you to do it. There's certain places you're allowed to walk at a certain time because otherwise they have they're directing traffic for the cars.
We're going to make up all kinds of rules that aren't true just to laugh at you.
I was going to say, I guess technically it would be jaywalking, but everybody does it, especially at airports.
Yeah. Well, that's a joke, of course. Zeb's not requiring any of that. We're going to send him basically in the cargo on the cheapest plane we can find that may or may not get him there. But that is serious. We do have a GoFundMe page there. So please go out there and check that out. And on top of that, I have a brand new Team Red certified laptop with the Ryzen 5 2500U and Vega 8 graphics built in. I absolutely love it. It's sitting behind there under a magazine, so nobody can get a sneak peek of the model or what it is, because it'll be on my channel. But let me tell you something. It's blazing fast and the first fully Team Red laptop I've ever had. So really excited to unveil that to people.
Nice. So are you saying it is in the background right now?
It is there under a magazine.
Oh, well, that's cheating.
It's very,
I was going to zoom in the editing. It's like this particular laptop. So this episode of Destination Linux is sponsored by DigitalOcean. And DigitalOcean offers the simplest, most developer-friendly cloud platform. It's optimized to make managing, scaling apps easy with an intuitive API, multiple storage options, integrated firewalls, load balancers, and much more. You can get all of this stuff and world-class customer support for as low as $5 per month, or you could use their flexible pricing structure for only 0.7 cents per hour. That's 0.7 of 1 cent per hour. And they also have 2,000 cloud agnostic tutorials you can check out to be keep up to date with the new things in this very software, languages, frameworks, all kinds of things. And you can get started with DigitalOcean for with a free credit of $100 that you can do. And you get started by going to do.co/DL. That's do.co/DL. And
I was thinking about this recently because I was doing those classes where I'm learning a lot of more details within Linux for the Linux Essential courses and things like that. A lot of the utilizing a lot of tools and commands and things that I don't necessarily want to run on my main machine because I'm afraid it could mess something up until I fully understand it. And I was thinking back to my journey in Linux, and one of the first things I did is I booted up a DigitalOcean server so that I could go in there and play because I kept hearing about it. And so I booted one up and I would go in there and I'd play with terminal commands because it's so easy just to wipe it and add something new back. So I suggest if you're out there, because a lot of people in our Telegram group were saying that they were really interested in the fact that I was doing the training and the Linux Essential courses and asking about which one I was doing and that type of thing, it would be a really good idea to spin up a DigitalOcean droplet here, especially with this credit. You get $100 credit there so that you could practice a lot of these commands and things in an environment where the worst case scenario, you could just delete the droplet, add a new one back, and boom, you're right back in business.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're also thinking about doing some modifications to our workflow using some droplets. And one of the things that we're going to do is replace our collaborative editing thing with something like Etherpad, where we can self-host a Etherpad instance and have a nice
Thank God we're going away from Google Docs.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we all hate it. We all hate it. It's just
it was the worst thing about working over at the other place was dealing with Google Docs, and I was so thankful the day that I didn't have to do it anymore. And then we started Destination Linux. I'm like,
imagine me, the person who hates all those products the most, having to use this thing.
Yeah, we hate we all hate the Google Docs, and it's
I like it.
Okay. Okay, some of
Sorry.
us have bad
It
taste, but that's so we're going to switch to Etherpad. We're going to use the DigitalOcean droplet for doing that. And if you want to try out some, like we said, you can get a $100 free credit to try out DigitalOcean, and you can do that by going to do.co/DL. Wait, not dash. It's do.co/DL.
You were thinking of those terminal commands.
I was thinking of the commands you were referring to. Exactly.
Zeb, what do we got going on with email, sir?
Well, we've got quite a good email this week. So it says, "Hello, Ryan, Michael, Zeb, and Noah. Thank you for your efforts to keep us all up to date on the latest in Linux. I love listening to your podcasts. I was wondering if you would do a segment on what options are available for those of us who are using 32-bit computers. I'm on Labonte now, but it won't upgrade to 1810 because the main Ubuntu stopped 32-bit support. I have to go somewhere else now, and I don't know where to begin. I know Labonte is supported for the next few years, but I have really enjoyed getting a new upgrade, new features, and a new look every 6 months. Having an old XP on this notebook die is what motivated me to stop dabbling with dual boot and convert completely over to Linux at home.
Nice.
I have come to think of Linux as the computer rejuvenator, sprucing up old hardware with a spiffy new operating system. This guy's got to be English. That just so happens to blow XP out of the water performance-wise. What distro can I go to? Other people have said it's time to move on and buy a new computer. Sorry, go on, Noah, you was going to say.
No. I didn't realize there's more to the email.
Yeah, sorry. So he then goes on to say, other people have said it's time to move on and buy a new computer. But I would rather continue to use this old reliable machine as it still works fine for my minimal requirements, such as email, surfing the net, and watching the occasional movie on DVD. If you could have a segment with some guidance as to what distros you would recommend for 32-bit computers from the XP era, that would be great. It doesn't have to be Ubuntu-based. What would you recommend? And he goes on to finish with, thanks again for the great podcast. I have a tab for your website coming up automatically on my phone.
Yeah.
So I will see each new episode the moment it shows up. Keep up the great work.
Awesome.
Take care, Gladdy.
Well, thank you so much for that awesome email. And I really like this because he wants some recommendations on 32-bit. And there is a lot of news that we had covered, especially several months ago last year, where they were talking about a lot of the distros that we've come to know that had 32-bit support were dropping it. So this starts becoming an issue for those who need that. The first thing that came to my mind was MX Linux, because that's one of my top 5 favorite distributions of all time. And so I reached out to Dolphin and just said, hey, before I recommend it, do you have any plans to drop MX in the future? And he said, absolutely not. As long as it keeps getting supported on Debian, he's going to keep supporting it as well. So MX Linux, I think, is a great option that's just absolutely gorgeous and modern, that runs on 32-bit modern feeling desktop environment.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that it's going to be interesting to see if the other distributions that are, that are Ubuntu based that have 32-bit still, if they're going to abandon 32-bit as well, because if they don't have the team, like they don't have the Ubuntu team making it possible to easily do the 32-bit, will they just kind of abandon it or whatever. I'm curious to see what happens, but I think the MX was the first one that popped in my head too. Even when you were reading the email in the show, I was like, MX Linux. That's what I would go with.
And even though I'm a Team Peppermint aficionado, we are Ubuntu based, so we will lose that 32-bit sooner or later, unless, like you just pointed out, Mark decides to carry on and keep building it himself. So yeah, the first thing that popped into my mind was MX Linux, and or Antix, which is also based upon 32-bit, and it's much more lightweight. So I don't know which he would find better with that level of machine. Now, being as you're an Arch user, they don't do 32-bit anymore? Or?
No, they killed 32-bit like a year ago.
That's not true. Arch has 32-bit.
They don't have a 32-bit ISO. They have 32-bit applications.
Didn't know that.
Right.
Like I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they mentioned there was an announcement a couple
because they
like
have
a year
Arch
ago.
that runs pretty much on everything, ARM, the works.
No. The Arch Linux ARMS is a completely separate project and nothing to do with Arch. Like that's just that's a separate project that got permission to use the term Arch Linux as a part of their name. So like that's just a totally different thing. But the Arch the Arch main project had 32-bit, and they announced, pretty sure they said that they were going to not do ISOs for 30-bit anymore. They were just going to do 32-bit applications available. But I'm pretty sure they announced it like a year and a half ago or so.
Well, there's archlinux32.org, but it looks like maybe it's community maintained version of it. So
yeah,
maybe you're half right and half wrong.
I'll go with that.
Yeah. So Noah, what were you going to say halfway through the email?
Well, what I was going to say was, if hypothetically speaking, if Labonte was interested in continuing to support a 32-bit operating system, like you say, it's based on Ubuntu, so some of that is out of their hands. But hypothetically speaking, if that was to continue, would you stay on Labonte was going to be my question. And I'd be interested to hear the response to that question. Because a little birdie has told me that there may be some interest in maintaining 32-bit, a 32-bit version or variant of a Labonte style or type distro if there was a use for it. The issue is that there's not a lot of people that are asking for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's the percentage is very low of how many people who use 32-bit, because you can get a 64-bit from a garage sale now. Like they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
You can, but we've just recently had our respin, and you'll be surprised to know that 40% were still going for the 32-bit version.
That's interesting.
Nice.
Well, hold on. We can't. So, respectfully, the issue there is does everybody that's downloading that ISO understand the difference between 32-bit and 64-bit? Because a lot of people will, especially in this, I think what contributed to this very early on was Canonical. Well, I think it was Canonical, or maybe it was Fedora, had, when you download, it would say 64-bit, ensure that you have a 64-bit processor, and then under 32-bit, it would say, if you're not sure, use this. And I think we created a narrative that 32-bit is the most compatible piece of software. And so if you don't really know what the 64-bit thing is, then just download the 32-bit. And that just became the de facto standard. So what would be interesting to see is if you only released a 64-bit version, how much of your user base would drop off? That would be a representation. I bet you that number would be a lot lower than 40%. Would be
maybe we can reach out to Popey and ask him.
Yeah, maybe.
Because they should have the stats that are there from the Ubuntu side of things.
Well, I mean, they have the stats from like the 1804 version. I think that's the only one that they would like. I think that was the only one that had 32-bit.
As I recall, it was pretty low back then.
I think they said it was like 10% max, and I think it was actually less than that, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we love hearing from our listeners, don't we, Zeb?
We certainly do, and we want to hear from you. So send us your emails this week asking that burning question, or simply giving us some feedback on how you think the show went, or what you'd like to hear in the show, like we've just had done there from Gladdy. So send your emails to comments@destinationlinux.org.
Up first in the show is news from the Linux kernel that we're going to now do. No longer we're going to do 4.21 like we talked about previously. We're going to do 5.0. So Linux 5.0 has been announced. Linux has announced it to the mailing list that they're going to go ahead and switch to the new major version of 5.0, and that the difference between 4.21 and 5.0 as far as the naming scheme goes is nothing, just because.
What? It's not a huge event. There's not going to be cakes and things and fireworks going off and new features we never heard of. I mean, it's 5.0, Michael.
Right. But my favorite part about the Linux naming scheme is that it used to have like a structure, meaning like in the 2.0 series. Then the 3.0 was like, we've just released too many 2.x whatever series. We're just going to go to 3. And then the next one he's like, well, should we go to 4? He's like, yeah, why not? So, like this is the same kind of thing. It's like they don't really care. It's just more like, here we're doing it because we're constantly doing iterative updates and things like that, and we've done enough of those for the 4 series. We might as well just do 5 now.
Right.
Well, I think they're calling this 5 because Team Green is getting NVIDIA RTX Turing support in Nuvo.
Oh, hold on. I think I'm getting sick to my stomach.
Okay, well, maybe you'll like the next item then about the Team Pi.
Yeah, Team Pi gets what we discussed last week, Raspberry Pi touchscreen support. And those with 4K screens, we happen to know that they get large versions of Terminus console font. So if you have a 4K screen in Linux, and really any OS right now, there's a bad habit of opening programs in there super teeny tiny. So you have to pretty much scale up to be able to see everything effectively, depending on how the app or program was written. So it's nice to see Terminus there getting some 4K support.
It's really strange because they say it's easier to read. Don't you just go in and edit the settings on Terminus and put it at 16 point anyway?
Well, the idea is that you wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's built in the kernel by default to have like a larger version, so you don't have to worry about that.
And they would then automatically realize you're on 4K and present that, or it's automatically going to be like that. So if you want a normal monitor, you're going to have Fisher Price text.
I haven't looked in to see what the difference of how they set it up.
Fisher Price.
But I assume they're going to do an option where the DE will decide which one to use and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Michael, what do we get in 5.0? What in Linus's words? Here?
In Linus's words, he says that about 50% of this update is drivers based. The 20% is architecture updates. 10% is tooling, and the remaining 20% is just all over. So there's documentation, networking, file systems, core code, and a bunch more. And he says nothing particular stands out, although I do like seeing somehow some of the ancient drivers are being put out to pasture. It's like,
and then he puts cough ISDN cough, and I thought that was so funny in his message.
I did not realize there was any sort of continual development on ISDN or things that supported ISDN.
Yeah. Well, it's the whole thing about the kernel is like they always have like these architectures and stuff that they've been or drivers they've had for like a long time, and then they'll drop the support for it, and then people will go, what is that? So there's they dropped like 8 different architectures in the kernel like 6 months ago or something, and most people had never heard of any of the 8. So like this one is more of a, how is this even still a thing? Because can you even get an ISDN network anymore? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I use Arch, and Arch already got 4.20 just released a few weeks ago after the Linux kernel was released. Got it only a few weeks after. So if you want to test out the new 5.0 with all of its architecture and driver support, probably want to run Arch. Just saying.
Okay.
But also, before we move on, can I just point out how awesome the Linux community is? I just got a message from the Labonte release manager, and he said that they have actually carved out the infrastructure for i386, and they are more than willing to support it if there's interest in it. But right now, the download ratio is 6:1, 64-bit to 386. That's why they're looking and going, 32-bit is just there's declining interest. So it's not. So just so we're clear, like they're willing to do the work if there's the interest out there, but you got to go download the ISO and show them that, hey, there's enough of us out here to matter, because the one lone horse, that's not going to be a thing. Yeah. I didn't mean to derail the show. I just think it's cool that
that's amazing.
On the program, and all of a sudden we get the release manager like, hey, we care. We absolutely care. We got our pulse on this thing.
I mean, I agree. That's great. It's if you have a live update, feel free to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. So everyone go out there if you want that 32-bit to stay and show some love for it. I saw a new distro I wasn't familiar with. You guys might have seen it before, but it's Funtoo Linux, and they had a new release 1.3. Mm-hmm. If you're a fan of Gentoo, you may want to check out Funtoo, as they have this new release, and apparently it was created by the Gentoo founder, Daniel Robbins. Funtoo was. He was the chief architect before leaving, and it looks like in about 2009 that he released this. So it's been out there for quite a while. It looks very similar when I was looking through it to Gentoo in how you install it, meaning there is a huge list of things and it's, that you have to go through to get this installed. And in fact, you use the Gentoo Live ISO to kind of kick that off. But there was another distro that's mentioned on Funtoo called Bentoo. There's too many twos here. It's getting confusing. But the Bentoo apparently is a much easier version of Funtoo to install. That comes kind of with the desktop Plasma DE and things installed. So a couple options there for you. Gentoo, Funtoo, or Bentoo to check out. But so you said you'd heard of Funtoo before, Michael.
Yeah.
Anything here that I missed about this that's interesting?
For the most part, I mean, you got it pretty much. It's a Gentoo. Like it's not a derivative. It's very similar because the guy who created it. Essentially, what happened was that the Gentoo community disagreed with the founder, and he decided to leave the project and go make make this Funtoo alternative. So it's a very similar because they basically started in the same time, because he left, like they started Gentoo in 2000 and he left like late 2000. So it was interesting to see like the transition from his work on that, and then the stuff that was continuing with Gentoo versus like the stuff he did with Funtoo. And I've seen a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people who prefer Funtoo over Gentoo. I don't really have a preference either way because they're both kind of a lot to do. And,
a lot to do is a good way to explain it. Although I hear you get a lot of great performance out of it. By the time I was done with it, Arch was hard enough for me. I'll stick there. But this 1.3 version is they moved to an LTS kernel. They now have AWS images for the Amazon cloud out there available, which I thought was pretty cool. A lot of security and bug fixes. Deprecation of multi-lib support, so 64-bit version of Funtoo will no longer run 32-bit applications.
That sounds like a bad idea, but I mean, I understand. I can understand if there's like an issue with having to maintain all that stuff, but I mean, there's still a lot of applications that are 32-bit based and stuff like that.
And they have a fully frozen kit that they base their repos off of. So this looks like it would be maybe is it supposed to be a more stable kind of LTS derivative of Gentoo?
Not really. I mean, the way that they're both technically rolling releases because they're source based, but it's not necessarily a LTS version because it kind of is because of that. Like now, since they're moving to LTS kernel and moving to more LTS packaging, but I wouldn't really describe it as an LTS because you could say that Gentoo is only required you to update as much as you want to. So you could specify things like to a certain degree where you could make Gentoo as LTS if you want it to be.
Gotcha. All right, so it's pretty cool. If you want to check out something new, check out Funtoo.
Also, if you want to check out something cool, check out the latest release of UbiPorts. The OTA 7 has been released, and there are a lot of really cool, exciting features. Now, the first is that I thought was pretty cool is they upgraded libhybris. A libhybris is the underlying architecture or thing, essentially, that allows it to run on top of Android. They also added the ability to theme your keyboard. So if you don't like it shining on your face at night, then you have the ability to change that to something darker. And the other thing that's pretty cool is they have gotten their development cycle down to 1 month. So the last time they had an OTA release, it would have been 6.0, and that was just 1 month ago. And they've now gotten it. They've done some tweaking to their internal release cycle, so they've got it down to exactly 1 month, which is pretty cool. They also have some default options for per page zoom, which has been frustrating for some people that are using it as their daily driver. So if you're looking to get some extra life out of that old Android phone and you're not sure what to do, consider loading an alternative ROM, and Ubuntu Touch might be the way to go. It certainly has probably, I'd say, other than the like free versions of Android and free as in freedom, Ubuntu Touch is probably most prolific alternative operating system for phones out there.
Yeah, it's so good. There's a lot. It's not meant as to be used as necessarily as a daily driver just yet. And I think even the developers will say, there are little bugs and tweaks there, but it's so close.
It's so close.
And if you think about everything that goes into a phone OS, there you go. You got it right there. It's just how far we've come. When these phones first came out, things like cutting and pasting didn't exist. That didn't come until, like 6 months to a year later after we started getting these smartphones in, did those features start to arrive. Mm-hmm. But now they have to play catch up and write an entire mobile OS essentially with all of those features that other people took years to eventually build in all at once, because now we expect to have it right there.
Little bit of shameless self-plugging. We did a celebration episode. I think it was episode 100 of Ask Noah. We went out to a local restaurant and ordered food and drinks, and the Ubuntu Touch people came out to hang out with us and brought about their demo devices. Nice. And so we got to play with some of the cool things and saw what was coming around the corner. And I mean, these guys are some of the most dedicated people you'll ever meet. And we're actually going to have the release manager, Dalton Durst, is going to join me on Tuesday for an interview about the release.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. So is there a defined kit of old phones that you can put this on? Yes. Or is it any?
No, it's certain types of phones. Like this one is this is the OnePlus One. You can't really tell there, but there's also the Nexus 5.
If you go to ubiports.com/devices, you'll get a list of all of the supported devices that you can that they recommend that you use to put it on.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And you mentioned them being really active in the community, and they are. When I released my video on my channel on utilizing this as a daily driver and talked about all the functionality and things I loved, and obviously I've been in telecom my entire life, so I kind of know it pretty well. they were actively, immediately engaged in the Telegram, asking me about any of the critiques that I had, and specifically how do I recreate it. So they're just very active, and they really care about this product. And so I definitely recommend you can go get an old Nexus 5 for like $50-$60. Go grab one off eBay just to play with this, if nothing else, to see what they've done over there, because it's quite extraordinary, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of the it's definitely the closest we have as an alternative to Android, while being Linux and everything. And it does it so well that it's kind of surprising. There are certain things that you got to get used to because it's the interface is very different. But for the most part, it does pretty much everything you want it to do. And there like we talked about it in a previous episode a couple months back or so, that they are working on making Android support. So Android apps would have support on the Ubuntu Touch. So you'd be able to use a lot of applications. And I'm crossing my fingers that the most important thing that I want is KDE Connect. So as soon as I get that, I'm pretty good to go. So
there you go.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, so moving on to the next item, and I need to know first of all, are we going to call this Tilix or TileX? TileX. Okay, so
I don't know. Let's consult how to pronounce to figure that out.
TileX.
TileX. Yeah, cool. So TileX 1.8.7 is out. And for those who love the idea of a tiling Windows but are not yet ready to jump to i3, they should definitely check out TileX as their terminal emulator. TileX has been one of our recommended tiling terminal emulators. Try and say that 3 times when you're drunk. The Destination Linux show in the past, and it has now got a brand new release in 1.8.7. So anybody who uses this, what's good and great about it? Why should we change from XFCE terminal, let's say, for argument's sake?
The tiling, it really is the tiling. So if one of the ways that I use this the most is, say, if I'm SSHing into different servers that I have. So if I have multiple servers that I'm getting into, I don't want to have multiple windows on your standard desktop or terminals that I'm trying to move around my screen to figure out which one's on which server and all this stuff. With TileX, you basically open this one terminal emulator. You've got little button GUIs at the top where you could click, open another terminal below it, open another one beside it, open another one below that. So now I have one window with 4 terminals in it. I can put my servers in there. You can also do theming and all kinds of other things in there. It's just a really cool way of kind of seeing the advantage of having tiling capabilities. And of course, you don't have to be an i3 prodigy to learn it. I had to throw that in there. It's very easy to install it.
So could you have 2 smaller ones at the top and a slightly wider one at the bottom?
Yes.
So that okay. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. And also another thing about TileX is that it has a built-in drop-down terminal. So you can use TileX to both your tiling terminal and as well as a drop-down at the same time. So it allows you to sync your history and sessions and stuff. So if you have multiple tiling, but you'll have probably multiple logs and stuff, or like your history, your bash history and things like that. So it allows you to sync it much better. And overall, it's like it's just a nicer experience. Like there are some other terminal emulators that have tiling system built into it, like Terminator. But
I was going to say Terminator's one that I remember seeing. Yeah.
TileX is pretty good.
Also good is that this app also includes fixes for HIDPI scaling.
Yeah.
Is good to see. New memory leak fixes and other tweaks and bug resolutions. So there you have it. TileX 1.8.7. Go fill your brains.
Nice. Well, something that's filling, Google is deciding to fill Linux with some extra features with Chrome, and that is they're adding support for enabling the Mojo video decoder. And now this was added to Chrome 72 for Windows users and not for Linux, but they have decided that 73 will have it, so they're basically correcting their mistake, and that's always nice to see.
So sorry, I've just got to correct Mr. Pronunciation there. Where's the H in Mojo? It's Mojo.
It could be
Mojo.
No,
it's
like people who call it Manhal. It's Manjaro.
Well, no, it could be Mojo. You don't know. Did you look it up?
Yes, I can see it on the screen in front of me. Mojo.
But that's not what I meant.
That's not what the listeners want. They don't want to hear a pronunciation lesson. They want to know about what Mojo is.
Well, okay. So Chrome and the Decoder. So the Mojo video decoder, it allows you to add a new VDA layer by allowing to use GPU processing, so like hardware enablement kind of thing. So we finally get hardware enablement for Linux inside the Chrome. So you can now, your Chrome instance can take up slightly less of your resources.
Yeah, which is fantastic. So if you're brand new to Linux, you may be used to Chrome. Once you get used to Linux, you'll get rid of Chrome anyways and go to Firefox, so it probably won't matter. But for those who are brand new into Linux and still using that privacy invasive tool, you now can do better video encoding out of it. So there you go.
Yeah, and as crazy it might seem, is if this was the one thing holding you back, don't let it do it anymore, because we've got the same power and speed as that other OS.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
There you go. Linux rocks.
Speaking of something that rocks, the Entroware line has a new all-in-one PC called the Aries. We have a lot of pronunciation things that's making me question. Like, I don't even know if I got that one right. This is the episode of not knowing how to pronounce things.
I assume Aries is right because of the, it's spelled the same way.
What's wrong with you?
The Greek god or
God of
something?
War.
Yeah, it's God of War. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, you're right.
But it could have been they could have spelled it a different way. Who knows? In this case, I would say it's Aries. Yeah.
Hey, Noah. Irregardless, the Entroware is a UK-based PC manufacturer, and they make custom Linux systems. So they already have a special place in my heart just for that. I've never had, because I've built computers my whole life, I've never had a want to have an all-in-one PC, because generally that means proprietary. It's very hard to get in there and work on them and change things out. But that doesn't mean most people who haven't spent their life building PCs don't want that, because especially if you have little desk space, and so you can't have all these giant computers and monitors and everything sitting on. Also, it just looks classier if you have one of those sitting out, say, in a living room or other areas of your home, or if you're in an office situation, again, where real estate may be an issue. They are beautiful. You can't take away from the fact that all-in-ones are beautiful, and I love that we have an option now in Linux to have this all-in-one with Entroware that they've released here. So it has some pretty good specs here. It starts at about 739 squiddles. Is that right, Zeb?
Yep, that'll do.
Perfect. Okay, and it's got an 8th gen Intel Core i7 to kick off, up to 32 gigabytes of DDR4 and up to a 2 terabyte NVMe in there.
Nice.
The only thing I didn't like is there was no AMD version, so I'm hoping someone in Entroware drops an AMD version in there, because right now they just have the Intel option. So, but it looks pretty cool if you check it out.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it's crazy that you just literally got a 24-inch monitor in front of you that's got a Core i7 8700, 32 gig of memory, and 6 terabytes of storage that you've just plopped in. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
It would also be nice to see slightly bigger monitors as well, because 4K on that would be a bit. And that was the only thing they didn't talk about, what the graphics card would be like.
No, it's not a graphics; it's integrated graphics.
That's the problem. That was another issue I saw, Zeb. So good call out. They really should have some other options out there outside, especially when you've got such great options there for your CPU and other things to have a dedicated GPU, which would make it much more usable in, say, a work environment where you're doing graphical work or those type of things. You want that. You don't want to use an integrated Intel GPU for that type of stuff. So
it'd be interesting if they had like Thunderbolt support. Then you could do like an external GPU and stuff like that. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Does it not?
I don't know if it does or not. I was just saying.
I think it does.
I just didn't want to claim that it did or not, because I don't know. I wasn't sure. It'd be great if it did.
They do offer additional displays, but they're add-on displays, not. You don't change the main box. You can just add additional displays to it. But yeah, I mean, if you add everything up that you can possibly put on there, you don't want to spend £2,700 without a dedicated graphics card. That would be slightly crazy. Yeah. But it's a good starting point. It's really, really good.
Well, I don't know how this happened. It must have been a mistake, because I've got 2 articles in a row here, so it must be my mistake or somebody's messing with me. But this one I'm going to pass off.
You know why we did this. We know why you put your name here, so that you could get someone else's name later on in the document. It's okay. Giving up the ghost.
You mean that you telling me I would rig the document so that you ended up with a pixel game? That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, that's probably true.
I was going to say that is not that hard.
right. Well, I'm going to pass this off real quick, but have you guys been watching the CES coverage out there? Because there's been some really cool things out there, and that's what this next section is about. Did anything in here intrigue any of you besides that?
I looked up the price of the 8K TV, but here's the interesting thing. Before I looked up the price of the 8K TV, I already knew that I couldn't afford it. They have, it's like, did you see, like, they had the one they were demoing was like a 250 inch 8K TV. I think it was 215 inch 8K TV at CES.
Yeah.
Unreal. Here's my question, and a serious question. What can you play on it? Because we don't even have reliable 4K content out yet. Where do you get 8K content?
You know what that's the funny thing is like the only place I can think of that has any high res like 4K or 8K is YouTube.
No, 8K though?
There is a few people who put stuff in 8K.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to get your vlogs in 8K, that might be available. But like realistically, like there's no movies, there are no TV shows that are being very, very, very few. So if you want to go spend an absurd amount of money on your 219 inch 8K TV, knock yourself out. I think,
and you've got a spare football stadium to fit it down at one goal end while you sit at the other end to watch it.
Exactly.
Thank you. You are proving my point. Like, this is ridiculous. I mean, it's a 6-foot television.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's the fact that
It's brilliant.
It's achievable. That's what's so astounding.
If I was, playing CS:GO or Ballistic Overkill, your characters would be life size as I shoot at them.
Yeah, but you'd also have probably about 7 frames a second.
7 frames a second.
And you'd still miss. Yeah.
Well, you know what, Zeb? How dare you? You know why it wouldn't be 7 frames per second? Because I would have the brand new that got announced there, 7 nanometer. As I said, it was going to happen. Radeon 7 GPU that is going to be their new flagship. And I am so excited to get my hands on this card. I'm starting to save up now because it's a little pricey at $699. And I just want to say, because we had arguments in our Telegram already, not arguments, I'm kidding, people talking about the different specs and the different benchmarks and stuff. We don't know what this chip is fully capable of. They have not fully released all of the marks. In fact, a lot of people who have insider information are saying that the current iteration that was shown was held back on purpose, and there are additional areas for additional chips even included on there. So we don't have the final version. Any benchmarks you see right now are just complete guesswork at best.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that it at least beats the 2080 in its current iteration as is today, and likely they're going to do at that price point, we would hope, certainly. Otherwise, I will be disappointed in Team Red, see it stomp the 2080 Ti as well in there once they have the final version launched.
You're like a X with a grudge with an axe to grind or something.
I don't have an X to grind. I've seen AMD rise from the ashes. Rise. And I'm very happy to see it because it gets real competition out there. And for the first time, Intel and NVIDIA have actually had to push themselves to keep up. And
their biggest competition
is doing it. Yeah. And they're doing it quite easily because they've just issued a nice little simple $350 RTX 2060. So for the same price as some people are paying for the Vega 64 flagship, you can get yourself a real rock solid RTX 2060.
I will tell you, I was a little disappointed in the price line that Ryzen came out there with the $699, but I'm sure they will have iterations that will match that $350 price mark because obviously 2060 is a lower end card, so they'll probably have a mid range to compete with that too. I would hope.
Lower end card. I mean, it'll still double the power of the 1080, but you know.
You sounded really official there, Noah.
That's what comes out to me.
I'm going to have you on the channel to talk about it. And you just do that.
Let me ask you something. You thought about what games you're going to play on this new Ryzen card that you're all hot about?
Absolutely. TuxKart.
Ridiculous. Well, you go ahead and play TuxKart, Ryan, because there's 132 out of the 250 most popular games that now run on Linux. Large part thanks to Feral Interactive and Steam Play for their massive contributions. Now, if you're not a gamer, what you have to understand is that when companies make this kind of commitment to Linux, when they give this kind of contribution to Linux, they lend Linux legitimacy and it brings people onto that platform. There's plenty of people out there that their goal in life is to, when they get home, they just want to game. And so if they can do that most efficiently and most effectively on Linux, then they're going to be on Linux. If they can do that most efficiently, most effectively on Windows, then they're going to be on Windows. Guess what happens when they're done gaming? They stay on whatever platform they're on. And so this is an opportunity for us as a Linux community to start welcoming in, to be inviting to new users. And so even if you're not a gamer, unlike me, who battles 1v1 and no scopes you, you have the opportunity to still participate in a meaningful way of bringing people into Linux. Now, out of the 250 most highly rated games, 132 of them support Linux. Now, if you include platinum rated Steam Play games, that number climbs to 153 out of 250. And if we add gold support, it gets even closer. So gaming on Linux means that you miss out on very little. And of course, we expect things to only get better in 2019. Steam Play has 500 titles that have reached platinum status, meaning that absolutely no issues when playing them on Linux, including titles like Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, Dragon Ball, Xenoverse, Heat Signature, Shadow Warrior 2, Outcast 2, Hitman 2, Silent Assassin, Red Faction, Guerrilla Steam Edition, and a lot more, none of which I've heard of or played. All of those are available, and you should definitely check them out. If you don't check them out, at least be vocal and support these companies that make these contributions to Linux, because even if you don't know scope people, it's valuable.
There you go. Yeah. Well done for a non-gamer. You nailed that, man. You nailed it. I think it's interesting. There's another 500 titles that have reached platinum status for Steam Play right now as well. Exactly. Which means, you know, when we talk about all of this fancy CPU and GPU, the reality is some of us do graphic design and other things that could utilize that. But for the most part, we use it for gaming. A lot of the desktop users will use it just to game. If you spend $700 on a video card and have nothing to play, that would be a pretty sad story for to be on Linux. But that's not the case. It's just grown so much in just the 2 years I've been in Linux to see how many games have come. It's incredible. It is now a completely viable gaming platform.
And Proton has actually made it, like, it's only been about 4.5 months since they announced Proton, and we already have 500 platinum labeled games that you can play through their Proton Steam Play stuff. Like, that is just amazing. Like, how quickly and how well they work and stuff like that.
There's no way in closed source you would have had this fast of movement that Steam has had here, because they open source this. You have the community and Steam in there pumping out in 4 months 500 titles that could never run on Linux before that now can today.
So I'll add on to that real quickly too, that you also have, like, what is so frustrating to a lot of us out there, particularly those of us who are Linux users, is that we have the 30,000 foot view that other people sometimes they're so up and close to the Mona Lisa that they don't see the beautiful picture. They just see the individual pixels, right? When you back out to the 30,000 foot view and you look at everything on an equal playing field, you say, listen, if all of those games ran on Linux, guess what? We all know from a technical perspective, they would run better. The operating system is more secure. It's more stable. It's better updated. It's more well supported. The people that actually write the code actually care about it. They're not just taking a paycheck from some nameless company. All of those things create a better ecosystem for a gaming platform to exist on. So when we look at stuff like that and we go, listen, we know if we can get there, those users are going to be happier and it's going to be a better situation for them and for the game manufacturers, because their feet aren't tied at the knees from Microsoft. Right. So having that, it adds a level of frustration for us that sit up there and look at it and go, if we can get there, we know people will be happy. Just a function of getting there.
Yep. Well said. Well said. Michael, what other game would you want to run on your brand new Vega 7?
I would have to agree with you and say SuperTuxKart.
Yeah, man.
And that's also reason why it's that is because the SuperTuxKart has we announced that like a previous episode that they were adding multiplayer support, and today we're happy to join them in the announcement of it's actually playable now in a beta, so you can download the tarball and extract it, and then you can do the run.sh file, run.sh, and it'll allow you to play the game in a beta version, but you can go to like the global servers. You have to create an account in order to play, but it's just a basic account. You just sign up in the game, and then you're good to go. And it works great. We actually played, myself, Ryan, and Dustin from Ubuntu Budgie played. And,
who won, would you say?
Ryan cheated, is what I'm saying. So technically what happened is that I was going to play, and I decided to play with a controller, but the controls were really weird and funky, so I had to fix them, and then when I was ready to play with them fixed, he just left.
Just to add a little context, both Dustin and Michael use NVIDIA. The winner of the challenge uses AMD. Just want to throw that out there.
I mean, that's technically fact, but I mean, there's some nuance there. Okay.
It was ridiculously fun though. It really is.
It was really good.
It was so much fun.
It makes the game like I liked playing SuperTuxKart for it's been around for like 18 years or something, and it's been one of those games you go to and just kind of play around, just have like 5-10 minutes fun in it. But having the multiplayer and be able to play against people, your friends and stuff, it makes it so much better. Like it's really great. So I'm glad to see that that's coming.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so now to the my favorite section of the show, where I have to force myself to watch something that Ryan has produced for me. But in a twist to this week's show, and the fact that you can now game with 132 of the 250th most played games on Linux, this thing wouldn't reach the top 1 million. So, apart from the fact that Liam over at Gaming on Linux loves it, next, I'm not going to do that to Linux.
How dare you, Deb? You cover that article right now.
If I can pretend to care, you can pretend to care.
I don't care. They have the cheek to charge you $9.99 for a beta that has just got square blocks on a screen. It's woeful. I'm sorry, but these guys are pouring their heart and soul into it, right?
Yeah.
They are producing something that people will really enjoy. But it's rubbish. I'm sorry.
I think it's a problem
for me. And this is why I should not do these types of reviews. It was funny. It was great. And you get some good comedy value. But if you really want these guys to have a chance at selling that game, don't get me to review it. So save the day, Ryan, because this is woeful. I'm sorry.
Well, unless you're going for the top million, then you said maybe there's a shot.
Maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe.
I mean, the game is called Smith and Winston. I mean, how clever is that? Like Smith and Wesson, but Smith and Winston. And Liam from Gaming on Linux, who we would have to agree is one of the most knowledgeable on Linux gaming out there, says that he has a blast with it. It's a twin stick shooter. It focuses on exploration. It looks very action-packed and fun. And yes, it doesn't have AAA graphics, but it's not quite pixels either, Zeb. I mean, it's right in between.
It doesn't even have Z graphics.
Well, it has like a Minecraft style visuals because it's voxel based.
Yeah,
and voxels are actually a really interesting technology if you're wanting to learn about that. But you probably
if you're British, voxels were a crap car in the UK anyway. So it's got to be, that's where the analogy comes from. That will only work if you're British, by the way.
Nice.
Well, $9 you could pick that up. Go check it out and play it, and let us know, was Zeb right and the game is worthless, or was Liam and Das Geek right and it's awesome? So let us know. And
we can't ask Linux Paul or the Dark One.
No,
because they're just as sad as you and Liam. Yeah.
They're just as sad. All right, Michael. Software Spotlight.
So next up is the Software Spotlight, and this is something that Zeb would probably find some really good uses for us. But he doesn't have hepatitis, so but he might not. But it's the MultiBoot USB, which you can go to multibootusb.org to find out more about it. But it's really cool because it allows you to have a single USB drive and install multiple distros on it, so you can then install distros to your computer with like having a variety of different. So you essentially, instead of carrying around like 20 different USBs like I normally do and have a different distro for each one, you can have all on a very big USB drive to make it a lot easier. And what's really cool about it is that it has the ability to remove and uninstall these distros non-destructively. That's a very important key.
Yes, that's very cool.
Yeah, so it's a really good software spotlight. I think Zeb would find some pretty good uses for it.
Yeah, I think it could be, but the thing that I've always had difficulty with these is the instructions that they give you to use these things. For me, are never very user friendly. Now, you can't get anything more user friendly than having Dolphin Oracle over at MX explain to you in a video how to create a persistent USB with MX. I've probably watched that thing 50 times and I'm just missing something. I can't get it to work. So unless this thing has got some really good idiot guide, 1-step, 3-step instructions, I just don't get some of the geek speak. So I haven't looked at it yet.
So,
but
somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but are we talking about two different things? So the MultiBoot USB, so essentially you put Fedora and Ubuntu, whatever, and Targos on there, and then you can choose which one to boot in off of a single drive, right?
Yes.
So it's not necessarily the same thing as I want to create like a persistent drive that I'm going to install, right?
Right. It's not exactly the same now. Like, I don't think it has persistence features and stuff like that.
So
Right.
This is just where you can store 10 distros and decide which one to load up to install.
Yes.
Right.
Not necessarily run them with persistence and save your files and all
Right.
that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Correct. In fact, it's my understanding about the non-destructiveness is it's the exact opposite. It will not let you modify the
Gotcha.
install. So when you restart it, it washes everything back out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a pretty cool tool, and we had a lot of people who have over the episodes talked about, you need to talk about this, you need to talk about this. I finally put it in here because I had someone reach out to me in Telegram and say, can you please talk about this, because they utilize it, they absolutely love it. So there's a huge fan base for this tool out there, so definitely go check it out if you're somebody who carries around with them multiple ISOs. Someone will see you utilizing a tool like that. Oh,
yeah.
Frankly. Yeah.
I've got it's gosh, I wonder if I can find it real quick. It's a hardware version of that. It's a portable hard drive, and there's a little LCD, and then you choose which ISO you want to boot,
Yes.
and then the thing boots up. Yeah, I can't think of the name of it. I'll see if I can find it before the end of the show. Maybe we can throw a link in the show notes.
So this sounds like it can be really handy for someone like me who always needs to reinstall Peppermint because I'm always blowing it up. So get yourself a Peppermint,
There you
MX and Antagos on the one.
Yeah.
Just tuck it away to one side and only update it when the next ISO comes out.
Exactly.
Yep.
I will have a look at this. Excellent.
Nice.
Awesome. So this tip and trick of the week has to come from some of the stuff I've been learning this week, which was Vi and Vim. So I've been moving into this world. I looked at it in the coursework. It was the next thing up. I got scared. I was like, oh no, I've heard about this. I knew how to do WQ command, and that was about it. But
Ryan?
I've gotten, yeah.
Ryan, don't be afraid of Vim. I opened Vim 15 years ago, and I have not left. I can figure out how to get out. So I've been in there for 15 years. It's been a
So
great
there's nothing to be afraid of.
Nothing to be afraid of at all.
So I've been using it. I took the courses. I get it now. I've actually started writing some of my documents for the shows that I'll be doing on my channel in it, just because I need to keep using it to be able to pass the tests and things in there. So it's very interesting. I get why people say it's faster and some things. Personally, it's difficult to get used to it compared to something like a Nano or Sublime Text, where you can open up these same files and edit things pretty quickly the way I'm used to it. But I do get, just like an i3, once you get used to those shortcuts, it becomes much faster, and being able to maneuver your windows and move them around, and it's very similar to this here. But one of the things that was in there that I didn't know about was vimtutor. So if you have any interest in learning it, when you install Vim, if you just type vimtutor in your terminal, it's going to kick up a 20 to 30 minute course that's written in there for you to practice and learn all of those shortcuts right then and there. And it's really well done, actually, out there. So I thought that was a pretty cool tip and trick for anybody who might be out there wanting to learn it. So there you go.
As a person who spends, I would say, 70 to 80% of my work is done in at least touching Vim in and out through the command shell. What I would tell somebody who wants to learn Vim for the first time is say out loud the commands that equate to the keystrokes. So for example, when you quit, don't say, now which is the command here, bang, WQ to get, no, it's bang, right, quit, and say the words out loud. And what it will do is it will reinforce the action that you want to perform with the key command that goes with it. So, bang, I want to go back to the command line, and then write, I want to write the file out, quit, I want to quit, or bang, quit, bang, because I need to escape the fact that I didn't put sudo in front, or whatever the thing is. But that would be my suggestion, is say those commands out loud and what those keystrokes do, and don't make them a magical incantation. actually learn what those letters are doing.
Nice. That's good advice. I like that.
Yeah, for IDE
So a quick
or
question there. Bang is the exclamation mark?
Yeah.
yes,
Or
We'll teach
the
you that when you get to
hash?
the US.
Ah, right, gotcha.
you'll understand. You'll understand.
Actually, I want to say that's not a U.S. specific. I think that's the other way. I think it started somewhere else and came over here.
It's just a
Really?
programming term. It was faster to say because it was like they referenced it because of comic books always had bang, and it was always like ended with an exclamation point.
Bang, exclamation, exclamation,
That
exclamation.
makes sense.
Right, gotcha. Yeah,
So it was
yeah,
just an easier way to say it instead of going exclamation point because then it just takes so much extra time for.
Where does TAC come from then?
It's a military
Michael.
thing.
Michael.
No, it's a military thing, and
Michael came up with that dumb thing.
the reason why they say tack because it's just as fast as dash, but dash has multiple links. So if you say dash, there could be 5 different versions you're referring to.
Right.
So tack is always a specific size of a dash. So that's why they use
Really?
that.
A dash
That's
is a
what I
dash. It's like that long.
No, there's dashes. There's actually like long dashes for like
Well, shift
Under-
dash.
yeah, they're called
is
underscores.
longer
No,
dash,
there's
underscore.
there's hyphens
I
and then
can't
there's
believe we're
dashes.
discussing this.
I know, but there's multiple versions. A hyphen is a specific size of a dash. A tack is another term for a hyphen.
Who started Michael on this?
You don't say hyphen
Me.
because if you're not using in it's your
You all
it's-
know better.
It's
than
Noah's
to get
fault for
started
sure.
on this.
That's it for this episode of Destination Linux.
Well, big thanks to each and every one of you. Know that we appreciate you supporting us, whether you watch or listen to the show. We are looking for alternatives out there as well for patrons, so be on the lookout for that. But for right now, Patreon will remain up for everybody to continue to support, and those funds also help bring Zeb to America. So if you're not a part of the GoFundMe, don't feel bad. If you are a patron, you get to support as well, bringing Zeb to America, and we are going to have the greatest time ever when that happens out there. So I can't wait.
And you can guarantee we will be recording most of it so we can share it on the channel and everything.
Yeah, it'll be Zeb's greatest hiccups. So, emails. Well, there's a shock. We need you to send us some emails. Let us know what you think about the show. Let us know some ideas that you want us to cover. Let us know the mistakes we've made where we've talked about one particular thing and you don't agree with this, and you can back it up with some technical details, and then we'll correct ourselves on the next show. So basically just keep in touch, because it's you that keep the show lively and keeps the banter going between the 4 of us as we talk about tax and dashes and hashes. So send your email to comments@destinationlinux.org. And or if you want to use any one of the other methods that Michael has made available for us, go to destinationlinux.org/contacts.
Yep. And also don't forget to like that smash button and share the show on social media. And also, if you check out our individual channels, because we all have our own separate content, you can go check out Ryan at Das Geek, where you can fill your brains. And you can go to Zeb, where you can see him just going through caravans on Euro Truck Simulator stuff on his streams. And Noah does the Ask Noah show, where you can call in and ask Noah all kinds of different questions, typically focused on Linux business and things like that. And also you can find out my stuff at tuxdigital.com, and you can check out the Linux news show, the This Week in Linux show I do on tuxdigital.com as well. So everybody have a great week, and remember the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Only as important as the destination.
Yeah, exactly.